Assalamu alaikum and good evening. You are listening to Let's Talk, our weekly current affairs show with me, Akil Khalil, and my co-host Amir Suleiman.
Assalamu alaikum.
On Salaam Radio 106.2 FM and Inspire FM in Luton. You can listen to us online at salamradio.co.uk or watch the show live on our streaming services. Search for Salaam Radio on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. If you prefer mobile, please download and use our Salaam Radio app from the App Store or Google Play if that's what you prefer. Salaam Radio is always on air 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. Please get involved with your opinions by calling us on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah. I'm very well. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. It's good to have you back in the hot seat.
It's good to be back in the hot seat.
Another week. I have to give you a shout out.
Well, yeah, and 2 weeks since we've been on air. I mean, 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
Which has flown by.
It absolutely has. So just before we start, as you know, it's customary for me.
Of course.
Special shout out to Brother Hamid, who can't be with us tonight. Inshallah, he'll be back in due course, wherever he may be. Just before we went on air, I just want to give a special shout out to Brother, our station manager, who should be having his show live soon.
Inshallah, very soon.
Inshallah. But I tell you what, the 2 weeks we haven't been here, a lot has happened in the world.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I know before we go into the topics that we're going to be discussing this evening, there were many, many different stories that we could have discussed tonight. But I think the one that we've chosen really is something that resonates with people around the world.
Absolutely. I think when you disclose what this story is, people realise why we've chosen it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, without further ado, the first topic tonight, we're going to be talking about Liam Neeson, the Oscar-nominated Hollywood actor. And we're going to be asking the question, has the Hollywood actor started an important discussion about rape or reinforced racial prejudice? That's the first half of the show. And then the second half of the show, we'll be discussing the UK homelessness. Serious issue. And we're going to be discussing the record, and doing the research. What we've discovered ourselves as well is there's a record number of homeless people. You've seen it ourselves, even in Peterborough, on the streets, homeless people sleeping rough, and there's over 5,000 people sleeping rough on English streets, and we're going to be asking, why is the government denying their existence? As ever, we would like to hear your opinions. I'm sure there are many people who have an interest in both topics this evening. You can get involved by calling the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Alternatively, we are live on Facebook and Twitter, so feel free to share, comment on the stories as we go along. So, how did this actor come to this situation? Why are we talking about this? Well, a famous question, which is often asked to all actors when they're promoting a film, is how did you prepare for this role? It's one of the softest questions in film reporting, but the world got more than it bargained for when Liam Neeson admitted to The Independent that nearly 40 years ago, he had planned to avenge a friend who had been raped by going into a black populated areas of the city he was in, armed with a kosh, hoping some black bee would come out of a pub and have a go at me about something, so that he could kill them. Luckily, nothing came of it, and after a week or so, Neeson said he thought to himself, why the F am I doing this? And his publicist doubtless thought the same. So now there's much to process about Neeson's admission. So, like for example, should we condemn his racism or applaud his honesty? Would he really have gone through with it? Has he spent so long playing these middle-aged Avenger roles that he can no longer distinguish between fact and fiction? And as a secondary consideration, will Neeson's career survive this? Now, let's start off with the racism question, okay? I think we'll both agree. Nobody who goes out wanting to kill a stranger based solely on the colour of the skin can deny they are racist.
Yeah. Okay.
Or at least they were racist. And in the initial interview, Neeson said his first questions to the friend who survived the rape were, did she know who it was and what colour were they? Now, and just at that point,
yeah,
I've known people in my personal life who have unfortunately have been victims of rape. And those questions, who were they is a normal question.
That's a normal response.
But the colours never come into my mind.
No. It's not, God forbid anyone has been in that situation. I know you have, Brother Akil, but God forbid you would think to find yourself in that situation. But ask yourself, is it a normal, natural question that you would ask someone if they're a victim of any crime? Let's not just talk about rape. Any crime at all, right? A hit and run, right? You'd ask, the number plate and all this stuff, and what colour was the driver? No. Why would you ask that question? It doesn't make sense. So, from the outset, it sounds like we are saying, yes, Liam Neeson is racist, but there's a lot more analysis to come, isn't there?
Absolutely, yes, there is. I mean, let's look at this as well. He didn't need to make these comments.
No.
Nobody would have known about it had he not volunteered this information, and his existence would be a lot more comfortable right now. Let's be honest about it.
Well, it would be, but it does beg the question, doesn't it, brother? This is a Hollywood actor, right? Hugely paid, a very successful series of films from the Taken series, has 1 billion box office globally, right? So he's gold in Hollywood at the moment. He does these films, revenge films and vengeance and all this lot. I can't help thinking, and you've got to ask yourself the question, is this a machine? Is this a publicity machine? They say no publicity is bad publicity. That's what they say. But I know that it's a strong one because he's talking about, killing someone. But let's be really frank here. He was on the premise of his film being about revenge, right? So there's no question that people are talking about his film. There's no question that people know the name of his film. I'm not going to promote it here. And there's no question that people will be thinking, oh, there's a new Liam Neeson film out. Should we go and see it? So I'm just putting that in there just for a little tidbit of information that some people I know I've been speaking to thought, could this be just a way of getting publicity for the movie?
Or he's clearly a person who has examined his conscience. It's been revealed that he talked to a priest after his abortive revenge mission.
Yeah.
Perhaps talking to the press was an extension of the confession process.
Yeah, quite possibly. It could be that. But look, let's go back to...
However, I just want to add actually to that before we go to that, or did Neil Neeson make a calculation that his reputation would survive this in industry terms? Because of all the things that he's achieved. Like you were saying about Taken and I think he was Aslan, wasn't he? And all these different films. Yeah. Because his reputation, like he's literally gold in what he does because of his age.
But so was Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, but the two are different in terms of the alleged crimes that one has committed, whereas the other one is just a thought that he had that he was going to go out.
Yeah, I suppose
he was going to do this. So
I suppose
it's slightly different, I'd say.
Well, let's not forget that the premiere was cancelled.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So the premiere of the movie was cancelled in itself. But let's just take it back to right at the beginning of our conversation where he asked the question, what colour were they?
Yeah.
Because it begs that very obvious question. One has to wonder what would have happened if the answer that his female friend had given, if she said, oh, he was white. What would have happened then?
Okay, exactly. Would he have gone in the streets looking for a white person with a kosh in his hands?
He says he would. He was on Good Morning America. Yeah. And he said he would have done that, whether it was a Brit, he said, or I think he's an Irish or whatever. I can't remember what.
Lithuanian, yeah, that's
Lithuanian.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's just one step back as well. It happens to one of your friends. Of course, you want to avenge that person who you care about. And we have perfectly legal processes, protocols, and law in this country that should be sufficient. But as a human being, should we be taking it upon ourselves when somebody we care about has been raped, to the point where it's so much, we're becoming a vigilante?
Yeah.
So if we look at that for a moment before we get, because I'll be frank with you, when I heard it in context, what went through my mind was, in the early, the 50s, the 40s and the 50s, where there was slavery in America, and quite often it was a regular thing. Lynching was a regular thing in America.
Yeah.
Nobody batted an eyelid.
No.
Accusations were rife. And if you look at some of the testimonies of people in the even for example in 1850s, 1890s, they were saying, white people were saying, some of these charges that these black men are being accused of, they don't even make sense. I mean, they were really far out there accusations of rape and things like that.
That's right.
And so they were being publicly lynched. They were being murdered in their houses. And when I heard that, I was like, what takes you to that point? Is there something deep rooted inside you that you've believed from a young child, some sort of prejudice that if I'm around a group of black people, I might be unsafe, so therefore if one of them attacks my flock, I need to take revenge?
I think it's more than prejudice, it's actually conditioning. That's my true belief. I think it's how you're raised, it's how you perceive these people to be, and I think you're conditioned to feel a certain way.
Okay.
And I think that was evident with Liam Neeson. No, it's split people. On the one side, he's being lauded as a man worthy of praise for admitting to a evidently racist past, right? But secondly, we have to analyse this. It wasn't a reaction as such, right? It wasn't a moment of rage that spilled out. It was a constructed and planned action where for a whole week he was actively looking for a black man to unleash his so-called sadistic rage, right? Or perceived sadistic rage. But firstly, it took him 40 years to share this. Why? Why did it take so long? What else has he harboured in his private life for the past 40 years? I mean, it's evident. I think we can safely say 40 years ago, based on what he's disclosed and shared, he was a racist man because of this action that he carried out or wanted to carry out. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You know, there are going to be people listening to our show right now who are going to have an opinion on this. So please get involved. Call the studio on 01733 602 133. What is your opinion on Liam Neeson? Do you feel he's still a racist? Do you feel that he's overcome these feelings that he had in the past? I mean, look, the point Neeson was trying to make with his comments, which understandably got lost in the mayhem, is that life is not like the movies. Revenge is not a solution to anything in the real world. And the movies he makes to do a better job of finding, you know, a release. But on a societal level, we can pretty certain there are countless people, especially white men, who once thought like Neeson, and countless more who still do now. Particularly in the US, the current climate has created conditions where bigotry can be expressed openly in the form of torch-carrying marches through Charlottesville or anonymously in online hate sites and chat rooms, as well as expressing hateful opinions. It's also becoming more permissible to do these things. So is he just echoing what other people are thinking? Does he feel safer now 40 years later because of the climate in America, because of Trump being in power, where he knows he can now say it? Because
there's more acceptance.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. So if this was in Obama's time, would he have come out? No, because the climate, the society was different. Now all you have to see is,
well, we don't know. We don't know would he have come out and said.
Well, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Is that he wouldn't have come out. You only have to look at those people in Charlottesville where the car was driven in. You have to look at Trayvon Martin. You have to look at these.
Yeah.
These things are all, as far in my opinion, they're all together. You can stitch all these things together. As a black person living in America, you are in fear. Even Barack Obama said that. You know, he himself was, before he became a senator, people were closing their doors to him.
Okay, we've had a message on Facebook. This is from Brother Imtiaz. Brother Imtiaz, thanks for supporting the show and listening in as always. He says, I love the story Liam Neeson shared. I don't think he should be judged as a racist. He himself says he was disgusted and ashamed with how he had felt and what he had went through. He recognises it and he understands now that what he felt then was wrong. I think we should applaud him for his honesty. I'm sure there are plenty of closet racists out there who choose to be racists in silence. Liam Neeson has brought about a conversation about how you react, particularly when under stress, and how racism is something you can understand and overcome. Now, he makes a very, very good point, and as I said, it's split opinions on what Liam Neeson has shared. Imtiaz is clearly on the side of supporting him and his honesty. But the thing is, my stance is that, an expression of guilt is not an apology. And if I've missed it, has he apologised for the way he felt?
No, he hasn't. No.
I haven't missed that, have I?
No, he hasn't.
Because the only apology, in my opinion, that would be acceptable or is acceptable is an apology that reflects him changing the behaviour, let's not forget, of those he can influence.
Correct.
This is a guy who's idolised by a lot of people. This is a guy who's seen as a major Hollywood star because he is one. So you apologise for the behaviour that he had because it can influence people. But has there been an apology?
No, there isn't. No. He hasn't apologised. From my understanding is he paced up and down quite a lot.
Yeah, power walking.
Power walked. And that's not an apology. What does it say to black America? What does it say to black men around the world? And I take on board Brother Imtiaz's point. And a lot of people actually have said similar things.
Yeah.
And looking at this objectively, yeah, okay, he didn't need to do this. He didn't need to come out and to say anything. His movie would have been fine. I know that they've cancelled the premiere and so on and so forth. Yes, it started a discourse.
Yeah.
Yes, there are people who are. In fact, there are going to be many people around the world who are overtly racist, and there's going to be many more people who are unconsciously biased in some way or another. I understand that, and I do feel that I don't want to attack him for coming out and saying and admitting that he once felt like this and this is what he went through. Maybe this might help other people who felt similarly, and it may stop them thinking, okay, I don't need to go that far, because it's not the fault of all black people that this woman was allegedly raped.
No. So look, what I will share with Brother Imtiaz, and in agreement, is that I applaud him for his honesty. I applaud him for, it is courageous. I'll be honest, I feel it was courageous for him to come forward and share that. Was it planned? I don't know. Did it just come out during the interview? Who knows, right? I'm thinking the latter, that it just came out. But it doesn't excuse what he felt. Now, the thing is, bro, we're talking 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, there were a lot more open racism than there is today.
Yes.
And as Brother Imtiaz said, there are so many closet racists here. And you only have to scratch beneath the surface to find bigotry in people. And it's just, people like to be seen as politically correct. But behind closed doors, who knows what they think? We know racism just doesn't go away over time. 40 years ago, it was everywhere. It was rampant. Right, and I remember growing up in Lincolnshire on the coast, and there was racism everywhere. We had the National Front coming to a seaside town where I used to live, and smash the shop window in. So racism was rife in the 80s, but I don't think it's gone away. I just think people have learnt that it's not acceptable unless you're in certain parts of America.
This is true, and unfortunately, I feel it will never go away.
No,
because there's always going to be some sort of ideology. There's always going to be some sort of political agenda.
Yeah,
which is going. I mean, you only have to look at the far right groups in some parts of Europe, for example, where many countries have now got right wing leadership.
That's right.
Where they are talking about banning refugees and and blame. And look at Trump, for example. His rhetoric is that if we don't build a wall, rapists are going to come across the border.
Yes. Yeah.
Against Mexicans.
And when you've got the leader of the, in quotes, free world shouting this bile and rhetoric, and you've got so many people in support of him, not just in America, I should add, right? Globally.
Yes, that's right.
Of course this stuff's going to come out. People are going to think it's acceptable.
Absolutely. And however, I'll be honest with you, I don't think America has actually moved that far forward as much as it probably thought it did when Obama came into power.
Yeah. On that note, I've got to interject for a second. Yeah. It's really relevant. I heard an interesting fact on the radio the other day. 2013 was the year that Mississippi officially abolished slavery.
Wow.
2013.
Wow.
And what does that tell you?
Wow. Hey, racism is alive and well in America. And so looking at this, I mean, reading people's comments and trying to understand this from a black person's point of view, many people have been utterly dumbfounded that he's actually come out and said this, and feel that this just reinforces the reason why they have a chip on their shoulder, while they should always be looking over their shoulder,
right,
especially in America, where they could be shot by the police or anybody for whatever reason it may be. And this just, although it happened such a long time ago and the context was that his friend was raped, it adds to this pot, doesn't it?
It does.
This pot is bubbling away, simmering away since Trump's come into power, and they don't feel safe about it. However, I mean, I get that. I mean, does this mean now this could potentially trigger a tsunami of other famous, powerful people who are going to come out and say things? Probably not. I don't think, because they're going to look at his career now.
Yeah, they will,
to see certainly the short term how it's going to affect him.
Absolutely.
But it'd be interesting to see whether he comes on after this Good Morning interview, and then as he carries on this discussion, he has had support from fellow black actors around the world, though, who said he isn't a racist.
Yeah, but you mentioned the Good Morning America interview, right? And there was just a bit of me that chuckled there, because if I can just go back, he said, where was it? I've got it here. So he said, oh, sorry, I've forgotten it. No, there we go. So he had this interview, and he said that he went power walking. Right? Do you remember you said he went power walking, right, but then he still went on to promote his movie.
Yeah.
So my point is, I had a little chuckle because he's gone on to Good Morning America when all the fuss has already kicked off.
Yep.
And you think he's gone on there to try and, calm concerns and alleviate concerns, etc. But he still goes on to promote his movie. So what does that tell us? I mean, this is what I think a little bit cynically about it all, because he's still got a movie to promote, and despite him going on Good Morning America, because I think he was asked to come on and he wanted to kind of clear the air a little bit, he still felt it was important to promote his film. And I just find that absolutely ridiculous, given the situation he's found himself in, that he still has the audacity, given the seriousness of what he's created, to still promote his movie. That tells me something about him as a character, or is it the studio saying you must say this?
Yes, I think it's a bit of both. I think there's going to be I suppose you could say there would probably potentially be a disconnect between his persona for movies and his profession to that of for him in personal life. So maybe he's just not logged onto any of his social media and not answered any emails since that, and just thought, well, this will simmer down at some point. But it hasn't. He's quite literally, lit a fire here, and it's gone viral.
I think you're absolutely right.
For the right reasons, I think.
For the right reasons.
And it's very, really important that we do, as a society, have this conversation. Many people are too scared to talk about our race relations without offending anybody. And I think we need to be at a point, because we do live in it is a PC culture for the right reasons, but that we should be able to still have a healthy conversation about history, about our feelings toward each other, because only through integration, only by talking to each other, are we going to be able to overcome these things. There's numerous examples about, especially look, in the UK, for example, one of the things our community gets accused of a lot is the lack of integration. Okay, but
falsely, I might add.
Falsely, of course. Yeah. And at the end of this, show, we'll be telling you about one of the positive things we are actually doing for integration in this city. But what I'm trying to say is, we need to talk to each other more. There are so many myths that we need to bust, and at the end of the day, we are humans. And these things should, in 2019, we should be past this. And unfortunately, we're not, in the climate of fear that we live in the social network, in the way the media and organizations are trying to push the narratives. It's only us as humans, our love thy neighbor. By doing these things, are we going to be able to promote this?
But bro, you know what it boils down to, right? And this is the cynic in me, right? Is it boils down to fear sells, love thy neighbor doesn't sell.
This is true, and
unity, integration doesn't sell. Creating fear in people, creating hatred as almost a byproduct of that fear, sells.
This is true, but it's having such a profound effect on the future generations. Look, me and you, right? We're going to be gone soon, okay? And there's generations that come after us. If we don't, as individuals, as Muslims, if we don't start setting examples about integration now, whether Liam Neeson doesn't do what he does, what's going to be left for the generations after us?
Well, look, I think you set that out beautifully, and it links in very nicely with a letter that was written into The Guardian, okay, about this Liam Neeson issue. I realise we're coming up to a break, so it's about a minute long. It says, a reader's written in, anonymously, I speak from experience. 2 years ago, a man followed my daughter off a late-night bus and attempted to rape her, and then ferociously attacked her with a large knife. She very nearly died from her multiple stab wounds. After the attack, the culprit was found. He turned out to be a 31-year-old black Muslim from Somalia. When my wife and I saw him in court, we did not have murderous feelings of anger or hatred towards him, or for his race or religion. We just felt sorry that he'd wrecked his own life and almost that of our daughters. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for sexual assault and attempted murder by a jury, which included 4 Muslims who swore on the Quran. So our confidence in ethnic minorities was not misplaced. The crime was committed by another human being. Simple as that. It made no difference to us what his colour, creed or nationality was. Also, we feel lucky as our daughter is on the mend, whereas her attacker will be in prison for many more years to come. So that is, if we all had an attitude like that, I mean, the world would be a much better place. But God forbid it ever happens to anyone I know, let alone myself. But if you find yourself in that position, would you have a bit of prejudice towards the person that carried out that crime on one of your loved ones? What do you think?
I think most people would.
I think it's a natural.
Yes, I think he's although I can't, I don't know what could happen. We don't know. We're not in that situation.
No.
Food for thought for sure.
Definitely.
Jazakallah, that was a very, very poignant letter that's been sent into the Guardian.
It was.
And to show such restraint is remarkable.
Absolutely.
Which is, and I dare to say, quite rare as well in this society that we live in.
I think so.
Especially when now in this culture where something like this happens, the first thing people do is sell the story.
Yes.
It gets sold across social media, and suddenly you have the likes of the fake journalist Tommy Robinson at your front door at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Jazakallah khair for that, and also for your wonderful opinions, and for the messages there from Brother Imtiaz. We're going towards a break right now. Stay tuned to the station. Our ad breaks are going to play any second now. We'll be back with topic 2, homelessness in the UK. Jazakallah khair.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
It does not take much to bring some difference. You give some change, which makes a change, because nothing gets mileage like a charity. Just a little change turns into a chain, and before we know it, the results are massive. So give a little to make a big difference. To give donations, call UKIM on 0207 387 2157.
दोस्ता की परेशान है
जरा कर है ना सारा सौदा मुक्या वा मुल्का विच पैसे भेजने
हूं नहीं मार फूड वाले की फोन खड़का ते फ्री लोकल डिलीवरी कार मंगवा
आला ता उथे कै स्पेशल आ
उना की लबाई हाइजीन च ग्रेड 5 चीजें चंगियां मियारी ते सस्तियां ते नाले ऑफर ही ऑफर
और क्या
ताजा गोश्त ताजी सब्जियां ते फ्रूट आटा चावल दालां मसाले ते जूस सारे बिल जमा करने गैस ते इलेक्ट्रिक ने टॉप अप भी करने पाकिस्तान पैसे बिल्कुल फ्री भेजने मतलब के एक चिड़ी ने दूध छड़ी ते हर शय लबनी
जने ने आप उतरा
Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Telephone 01733 687374.
Imagine if you had access to NHS GP services outside of your surgery's normal hours. With the Peterborough GP Hub, you can. Based at the Boroughbury Medical Centre on Craig Street, PE1 2EJ, the GP Hub is run by local surgeries and offers weekend and evening appointments for patients registered with a GP in the Greater Peterborough area. Booking an appointment is really easy. Simply call your surgery as normal and ask for an appointment at the GP Hub. Visit greaterpeterboroughgps.nhs.uk for more information.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
My name is Khalid Siddiq.
I'm Saif Adam.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Baraka Blue.
Yo, this is your boy Harris J, and make sure you guys stay tuned to Salaam Radio 106.2 FM.
Gems and jewels. Wise sayings, interesting events, and moral lessons from Islamic history. The truly generous ones.
It has been related about a house from the early generations of Islam that it had in it only a single bunch of grapes. The owner of the grapes gave them to his sister, who in turn gave them to her sister, who in turn gave them to another sister, who in turn gave them to her mother, and her mother kept them safe for her husband, who gave them to his son, who was the original owner of the grapes. Such was the generosity of that house. The grapes were passed on from one to another until they finally returned to the first. It has also been related that a group of hungry people from the early generations of Islam had with them a small amount of barbecued meat, and 9 of them shared that food among themselves, while each of them said, "Give it to such and such person, for he is more deserving." Thus, it would be passed around until finally it returned to the first.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Let's Talk, your weekly current affairs show with me, Akil Khalil, and my co-host Amir Suleiman.
Assalamu alaikum.
Just before the ad break, we were talking about Liam Neeson, the Hollywood actor, and the race story. And for the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about UK homelessness, record demand in homeless shelters with 5,000 people sleeping rough on English streets. Why is the Tory government denying their existence? As ever, you can get involved with the conversation by calling us on the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Or you can comment on Facebook. I can see we've had some messages already.
Yeah, so just on our last topic, Brother Imtiaz has messaged in again. He said he hears it all the time from our community. Don't let your houses out to this nationality or that nationality because they're unclean or they drink too much or they can't be trusted. I think sometimes that our communities has the most issues.
Wow.
I think he has a strong point.
Very, very strong point. If you are somebody who's experienced this, or living in Peterborough, or in fact nationally as well, actually, if you have been rejected, renting somebody's house, do you feel was based on your ethnicity, or perhaps even, like the brother said, on your cleanliness, or whatever it may be, some sort of prejudice, please do get involved. You can text the show, like I mentioned earlier, 07745 278 978. It would be really, really good to hear from someone who's had an experience where they feel based on their race, religion, or any form of their identity, whether that's LGBTQ, whatever it may be. Just to get an idea, because some of the numbers that we're going to be talking about today isn't just about people who've fallen on hard times.
No.
There are people out there who can't actually even rent houses.
Absolutely. That's so true. It just reminds me of the, just going, because this is tied into the racism part as well, but in the old days, you had the signs, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Yes.
It's as if that still exists, but the signs have gone.
Do you know something? I think I think you've hit the nail on the head there, brother.
Yeah.
Without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
As I said, so UK homelessness, the latest official figures for homelessness show that in England, outside cities, the number of people sleeping rough on any one night is down 2%. But this is where the good news ends. Rough sleeping has increased by 165% since 2010. Staggering number there, brother.
Unbelievable.
With rises of as much as 60% in major cities compared with last year. The homeless charity Crisis' own research estimates that more than 8,000 people sleep rough on any given night. That's a staggering number on any given night. Meanwhile, deaths of homeless people have more than doubled in the past 5 years. Most people agree that rough sleeping shouldn't exist in a healthy society, especially not in the 6th richest economy in the world.
Yeah.
But doesn't it appear out of nowhere? I mean, it's the product of political decisions, so why is it being allowed to continue? And so that's what we're going to be discussing this evening, is why has it doubled? Why are we seeing such a surge of homelessness in the UK on the streets? I mean, we only see in our local town ourselves. You don't even have to walk through the city centres. But do you know, now I've noticed beyond the city centres in this city, there are people sleeping rough.
Yeah, of course. So when you're talking about locally, you might recall in the local press back in November, not that long ago. So Shelter did an analysis of the most recent data from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and it showed back in November that an estimated 1,153 people in Peterborough are homeless or were homeless. Now, the vast majority of them, 1,122, were in temporary accommodation, which includes those in like hostel beds, living in B&Bs, or their own arrangements, such as staying for short periods with different friends or family. And the remaining 30-odd people were recorded as sleeping rough. So it means that 1 in every 173 people in Peterborough are homeless, which is the 6th highest rate in the east of England.
That's a staggering number.
Cambridgeshire as a whole has got a very high rate of homelessness, which is a staggering number. But going back to your point, bro, you were intimating about the government. I mean, I read the Housing Secretary James Brokenshire's comments explaining away the responsibility of the government with individual causes to homelessness back in December. And when homelessness is growing, it's a responsibility, of course, of the government and a failure of its policy, as you've said. And this has been validated in Finland, right? So where homelessness has decreased due to strong governmental determination. First, the supply of affordable social housing has been insufficient. And second, the Housing First model is not yet implemented on a national scale. And overall solution to homelessness relies heavily, here's the problem, on temporary accommodation. The Finland policy is based on the housing first model. So a homeless person is rented out a permanent flat unconditionally, and provided support. This has proven to be a sustainable solution, even economically. But the most evident prevention of homelessness has been affordable social housing and housing benefits. So why are we not doing that in this country?
Well, one of the reasons since 2010, when the current government came into power, was, they'd been left essentially a house with no roof by Labour. So they had to cut back. So one of the things that they cut back on was benefits and helping people in many, many different areas of life. I just want to add a couple of figures actually just to that before we get into this. Is, rough sleeping for London alone, released last Thursday by Chain database, regarded as a more robust index of the scale of the problem, identified 3,289 rough sleepers in the capital between October and December last year.
Wow.
That's up 25% year on year.
25%.
It's a damning reflection of our society that night after night, so many people are forced to sleep on our streets. With numbers soaring in the capital, and even in this city, you could say, you have to ask yourself a question. Why is this happening? What? And it's not a fundamental. We're led to believe, okay, that the people that we see in the streets, they're junkies. If they've got drug addiction, that might be the case. They might be addicted to alcohol or drugs, but that's not the only problem here. No one's willing to employ these people.
No,
they may have fallen out with their family members. There may be a mental health situation going on here. They're not getting the support they need. They are fundamentally they're not being treated as humans by the system.
No, this is the problem. But the thing is, if you're led to believe the reasons that James Brokenshire believes is the reason for the increase in homelessness, he's basically got a downright refusal to acknowledge any connection between government policy and the rise in rough sleeping. And it basically bears the resemblance of a government in denial. That's my opinion.
Yep.
So instead of seeking to attribute the crisis to the spread of psychoactive drugs and LGBT young people being thrown out of home, he should refer to the government's own data, which crucially, and this is where he's missing the point, his own data shows that since 2014, the loss of a private tenancy has been the biggest cause of homelessness in England. The loss of a private tenancy. Which, boil it down to its basics. Why are people losing private tenancies? Is it lack of jobs? Remember, the rise of food banks is on the up, right? So there's many reasons, it seems, based on government policy, it seems, why these conditions are as they are. But why is it that the Housing Secretary won't realise that as an issue?
It's difficult to fathom, isn't it?
It is very difficult to fathom. We had a Facebook message earlier on, by the way, from a brother who said, in this cold weather, homeless people, it's a big issue in Peterborough. And this is a brother, I won't mention his business for advertising reasons, but he has a business in Peterborough and he's giving free hot drinks to homeless people.
Mashallah, that's great.
Mashallah.
And we do have a local charity as well quite recently who opened up, they did, was it some sort of temporary accommodation?
It was an overnight shelter, it was held at Iqra Academy.
Yeah.
So a local charity has also been doing an initiative on that. So in Peterborough, it's a major problem. We know it, we see it with our own eyes, but it's clear that there's a lot of charity organisations, volunteer organisations doing a lot of work. Now, I know the council are trying. I know the council, they say that anyone comes to them because they're homeless. Anyone comes to them who are homeless, they will rehouse them. They will give them options. But sometimes those options are not great.
Yes. I just want to go a little bit back to what you were saying about James Brokenshire and about why he believes those are the causes. And I think one of the reasons is because the government is in serious denial that they've neglected social housing, and it's become all too apparent and is now a national shame.
Yes.
And so in order to admit that, then he would understand why we are seeing, I mean, listen, there's a direct correlation here between people who are going to food banks, unable to support their families, or you may have people who are working 2 jobs just to pay the really, really high rent and still not having enough money left over for food.
That's right.
As a society, we need to be looking at this. The government especially needs to be looking at, I'm not necessarily saying capping what private landlords should be charging, but certainly there should be a discussion around affordability here, as well as a proactive, and certainly, in fact, they're not saying what they're going to do in their manifestos. You're not actually seeing that. The houses are not being built. So, and on top of all that as well, as taxpayers, you know, these people who are on the streets, they could be me and you.
Of course.
You know, we've both done food bank, okay?
Yeah.
We've both been in the community. We've both done food bank. And one thing that is very, very humbling experience. One thing I learned from that was the people who we were helping, they were like me and you. They had a good job. They had a house. They had a family. And one paycheck, they missed a paycheck or something similar to that. And they lost everything.
And that is a sad fact as well, is that you've just touched on there, is a lot of people and families are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And you don't get paid 1 month for whatever reason. There's many reasons why some people don't get paid, and that's it. You are then literally left destitute because you've not been paid on time. So you're right. A lot of people that came into food banks, I mean, some people were drug addicts, some people were alcoholics, but a lot of people, when I say normal, you know what I mean? They were working, they were trying to earn a living, they weren't resorting to drugs and alcohol to get through life. They were just trying to make ends meet. And those numbers have increased a lot. But brother, what really kind of shocked me when I was doing research for this particular topic was going back to the point of how many people have lost standard private tenancies and has been the biggest cause of homelessness in England. There's research been done by Generation Rent, who have said that 94% of this rise of homelessness can be blamed on no-fault evictions, which have more than doubled since 2009. So we're not just talking about people, because some people choose to live on the streets. There are some people where I know charities have tried to help them. There's a charity organisation in Birmingham, a Muslim charity organisation, and they're always putting social media videos on where they literally are interviewing people on the street saying, look, let's put you up for the night. And they don't want to. They want to stay on the streets. I have no idea. I couldn't comprehend or even perceive to understand why anyone would make that decision, because I'm not on the streets. Maybe there is a reason why they choose to do that. Who knows? But there are also individuals that will take that help, that will go to the council. There are success stories. So I suppose what I'm saying here is that I don't think you will ever you will totally get rid of people living on the streets, because there are some that do, oddly, albeit minor numbers, want to stay on the streets.
Yeah.
But what is the reason for that? Because I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Exactly, I don't know either. Although it's quite similar to the people who, I don't know. It's freedom from everything.
It could be that. It could be that.
Not having to have any responsibilities, other than yourself, or maybe not even yourself. Or it could be that they are in such a depressive state that they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, irrespective of who's holding the torch.
And some say, I read an article, some would argue that there are some individuals that choose to stay on the streets because of their drug and alcohol addictions.
Yeah.
It's easily available on the streets. There's no restrictions of taking drugs and alcohol on the streets. Whereas if you go into some sheltered accommodation of some sort, you're not allowed that stuff.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, look, let's look at the powers that be.
Yeah.
In the last year or so, 2 people have died in Westminster.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right there, where the MPs have been walking past these people sleeping rough.
That's right.
And yet it still hasn't, given them the urgency to look at essentially changing the law to help people, because because there's that old law. I think it's George VI had this law. It was called bear with me a second. It was called the Vagrancy Act.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which gives police the power to arrest and detain those who beg and sleep on the street. Okay. Now, as this crisis has started to essentially blow up and it's accelerate, we had this, I don't know if you saw last year in the news about there's professional begging in the street, and so people were starting to disbelieve what they were looking at. Oh, this person he's here for a little while, he's going to make this much money, then he's going to go elsewhere. So almost the compassion from the normal people's compassion was being questioned.
Yeah.
You only have to look at Harry and Meghan's wedding in Windsor.
Yes.
Was it Windsor?
It was Windsor.
Right. Where the council at the time, one of the councillors said, right, we're going to forcibly remove all these people sleeping rough because they are essentially a scourge.
That's right.
Okay. Quote unquote. And and it just goes to show you when we are in our city centres and we walk past these people, what goes through our minds? Are we stopping even to say hello? Are we giving them a smile? Are we giving them money? Are we offering them a drink? Or are we going the next step, like the charity in Birmingham and charities around the UK, where they are trying to offer serious help and a roof for the night or whatever it may be? What are we doing as individuals? Because I tell you what, the government has failed in every way, shape or form. They're simply inadequate.
They have failed because just going back to, you're right, brother, and going back to Brokenshire for a second, who insists the growing problems is not a political failure, but then the charities and the helplines, the charities that run the hostels, their ear is to the ground. They're on the ground. They know exactly what's happening day to day. They know about homelessness more than the government could ever know. Forget your research. They see it in real life, right? And they believe that it's the caps on hours, the benefit caps, the welfare sanctions introduced as part of austerity policies, and these have all been key factors driving the rises in homelessness every year, as you say, since the Tories took office in 2010. Now, this isn't a Tory bashing topic, but you can't help but point the finger at the current government. Right, this could be Labour this problem was under, but it just so happens that the Tories are in power right now.
Yes.
So you have to point the finger and you have to look at what are the government doing. The problem exists, but what are they doing to redress that problem?
Yeah.
And I honestly cannot see. Now, the only thing I've read recently is that they're going to be building some new city centre hostels in 4 cities, and I think they'll be ready for spring next year or something like that. But the thing is, that problem's a long way away. I believe we've had a text, brother. I'll just check this while you...
Okay, I mean, that's all fine, and that's great. It's good to see that there's going to be some sort of provision, housing, etc., but it's simply not enough.
No, it's not enough.
By helping people get through these difficult times, by not just putting a roof over their head, helping them in, with their medical, social life, helping them getting on the economic ladder, they will be paying into the system and then paying back through their taxes.
Yeah.
And in the end, helping the government. There just seems to be a lack of appetite from the people in power.
You're right.
To proactively help what should be a fundamental human right.
Yes.
That you are living in the 6th richest nation on earth. You should have. It should be a human right for you to have a roof over your head, to feel warm in winter, food, all these basic staples that me and you take for granted.
Brother, you're right. So why can't they take a leaf out of Finland's book, right? That's going to add to more on what Finland have done. Each year, let me start off with those 2 words. Each year in Finland, 6,000 to 9,000 new, affordable, good quality social housing flats come to the market. And housing benefit also makes it possible for people with low incomes to rent a flat from the private market. So if it's working in Finland, and it's proven to be working in Finland, why can't we adopt those policies here?
Yeah.
We've had a text from Salaam, guys, great show, Jazakallah khair, thank you very much. Homelessness is a problem across all major cities now, and it's heartbreaking to see people out in the cold suffering the way they are. Something perhaps to ponder upon. There are lots of individuals and organisations doing some great work in providing homeless people with food, shelter and clothing. By praising them and promoting their work, are we losing sight of the fact that they are in fact doing what the government should be doing? It's come to a point now where MPs are visiting homeless shelters to show their support, which I think is ridiculous. It's almost become a distraction from the real issue, which is government policy. This is from Brother Abid in Leicester. Jazakallah for listening, Brother Abid, and for your excellent point.
Yes, totally concur.
Absolutely spot on.
And you see that, don't you? You see, I think it was Ian Duncan Smith, actually. And listeners, correct me if I'm wrong. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. But Ian Duncan Smith, I do recall, was in a supermarket not so long ago.
Right.
And he was having his picture taken with the food bank. I mean, the guy who set up Universal Credit.
I mean, you couldn't make it.
The irony.
You couldn't make it.
This is just... that's a great point.
Yeah, it is a great point. It is a great point. But I think the point that sticks to me is he said it's come to a point where MPs are visiting homeless shelters to show their support, given the fact that it's them that should be, making sure that this is being carried out in our country. So it's an amazing state of affairs, actually, because clearly, by far, it's obvious and plain to see that charities and individuals and volunteers are doing more for the homeless than the government are doing.
Yeah, this is true. And I think, in the long term, what should happen is charities, national or local, should all be part of a conversation as part of a wider strategy from the government.
Yeah.
in order to help the people who, and not just the people who we are seeing now. There's like you mentioned earlier, there's many people on the breadline. There's many people just there, right there at the cliff. That any given day they might go over and they might be in the street as well.
That's right.
There needs to be a policy. Look, we're heading towards Brexit now.
Absolutely.
I know it's a shambles, and it's not just the Tories you can blame for that.
No.
Both major political parties in the UK have lost the plot over Brexit.
Of course.
No one has got a cohesive plan that's going to work. Okay, but we are. It's going to happen. No doubt about it. But that, in many ways, is going to exacerbate this situation because there's going to be stresses, unforeseen stresses on the system. So the government needs to act now. All these people, all the professionals, the charities need to come and sit around a table.
I think it's already too late.
Okay.
I think you're right. 100% agree with you, but it's already too late. They should have been thinking about this a year ago.
Yes, but I do agree with you, but controversial statement, actually, brother.
Well, I know.
If anyone would like to counter that statement by Brother Ahmed, please call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Look, as Muslims, it's our duty to help people.
Absolutely.
Okay, and like the brother said, there are many charities, local people who are not part of charities, individuals who do go out. I've seen it myself locally here.
Yeah.
They'll go out and they'll feed the homeless, or they'll offer them warm clothing, or whatever it may be. And when you see this, it does. It makes you think about how lucky and fortunate we are,
of course,
and how it's important for us to help others as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, as much as me and you are talking about it and shining a light on this issue, it's also incumbent on us to help.
Absolutely.
And if that's helping a charity to deliver the solution on the ground, or whether that's to be part of a wider conversation with the council, everybody has a duty to help these people, because it could be us, it could be our family members who are on the. I said to you, remember before we did this show, I was watching a major news network in this city, and I was watching this clip of these homeless people in East London.
Yes,
and there was this elderly gentleman, said he's been sleeping rough for 5 years. Hadn't changed his underwear for a whole year.
Subhanallah.
And he was crying, and I was sitting there, I was watching this, and it was affecting my soul. I was thinking, how can this happen? How can we in 2019 in this country, this wealthy country, how can we let this happen?
I think George Orwell said it best, right, when he said that I forgot the quote here somewhere, because I thought it was so poignant when I read that. He said, either we all live in a decent world or nobody does.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is in essence what you're saying. Either we all live in a decent world or nobody does. Famously said by George Orwell. And I don't think we'll ever get there, brother. I don't honestly think we'll never get there, because politicians and government, frankly, in this country, is not run for the betterment of the country. It's run for different reasons.
Yeah, and do you know what the frightening thing here is? And we haven't touched on this.
Yeah.
Which is, me and you have, we've given a lot of numbers today about how many rough sleepers there are across the UK. These are just reported figures.
Of course.
And there are many people who are in, I tell you what, even just a couple of weeks ago, I was driving towards a dual carriageway here in Peterborough.
Yeah.
And within the trees on that dual carriageway, there were tents in there. And I was just like, what went through my mind is, it's like I said to you, it's come out of the city centre. It's happening all the time.
It is.
And it's really, really important that, look, me and you agree, and quite a lot of our listeners do, that they want to see a change.
They do.
And they want to see it come from top down.
They do, yeah.
I think it's really important that we get involved and help people. So the next time you or I said this to myself first, we're walking through the city centre and you see somebody sleeping rough, just stop and say hello, ask them how they are, ask them if they want to drink.
That's right.
Have a conversation. At the end of the day, they're still humans.
Yep.
And you often do see they are invisible to most people who just walk past them.
Look, some people are not comfortable doing that, right? Some people are not comfortable to stop and chat. But what you can do, and as we know, our faith tells us that a smile is charity.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all you need to do. If you're not comfortable talking to somebody, a stranger, you can just walk past, and instead of having that tunnel vision and closing off your peripheral vision so you don't see them, or it looks like you don't want them to look that you've seen them, just give them a glance and pass a smile. And it can change. It can literally change someone's day. Brother, we're running out of time, and I believe it's community announcements, isn't it?
It is indeed. So Jazakallah khair for that, and Jazakallah khair and thank you very much for everybody who's involved in our conversation on both topics. We have a few events happening in Peterborough over the coming week. So I'll start off with Sporting Saturday. a disability Peterborough project. Saturday 9th of February 2019, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Crescent Breton PE3 8DX. It's a showcase of disability and inclusive sport. So if you know anybody who wants to have a go, bring them along. If you want to come along, get involved in the conversations, by all means do so.
Also coming up, I mean, it's a month away. It's Sunday the 3rd of March. This is the National Visit My Mosque Open Day. This one I'm talking about is at the Masjid Khadija and Islamic Centre, Cromwell Road. Our usual open day, always well attended. This is great for Muslims and non-Muslims, but primarily the reason for mentioning it now is please tell your friends, colleagues, neighbours about this open day. It's at the Masjid Khadija Islamic Centre, 3rd of March, 11 to 5. Drop in anytime you like.
Okay, and then on the 22nd of February 2019 at Jackson School, which is on Bradwell Road, Peterborough PE3 9PY at 6 p.m, we have the recitation of the Holy Quran featuring the world-renowned Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Nuaina in aid of our brothers and sisters in Syria. Tickets are £5. You can contact Qasim on 07722 55 8884 or email the station at info@islamradio.co.uk. Jazakallah khair, that's all we've got time for. Thank you for your company.